Okay, I wanted to take a sec here to talk about playing styles and your instrument. I think people like to get kind of focused on one certain playing style that's maybe easier for them. For me, I like the outward stroke. It lets me get back and forth action a lot easier. It's just what I feel comfortable playing. But there are other ways of plucking a jaw harp, and some of them are ways that you should really only pluck a certain jaw harp. So I wanted to go over a few harps that I have here and some of the differences and the importance of not just choosing one playing style and sticking to it and thinking it's going to cover everything, but using the harp and feeling how it responds to that playing style and adjusting it or choosing a different playing style altogether because of the harp. And this is something that is probably a common problem across many different instruments where people choose different playing styles for whatever reason and then they stick with it. And then honestly, that kind of limits what you can do with that instrument and your growth as you progress as a musician. So I think the important message for this is that you need to feel your jaw harp, feel the way it responds to you when you play it. And Jamie Bebb says it the best on his channel: you are half of the instrument. So it needs to be a symbiotic relationship between you and the instrument here. So that all being said, let's go over what I've got. I've got two drimbas made by Labette, basically the same size. They're just called their small or mini Labette drimbas. This one is in a lower tone and this one is in a higher tone. I bought both of these from the Harpery. This is my Sean Jones antique nail. Just a beautiful harp. And this is one that I made myself. I brought with me. This is one of my Fluxes, one of my early ones. I'm in a hotel. I'm bored. So anyway, this one that I made myself, the crimp is on the side that is opposite of the direction of the trigger. Trigger is pointing this way, crimp is on that side. On this one, trigger's this way, crimp is also on the same side. I do that on purpose on mine. Aaron Shilagi, I've noticed, does that on his as well. And my reasoning is because I want this to be played outwards. And so when you strike it in this direction, the force on the crimp is against the back surface of the frame, as opposed to the crimp itself where I bent the metal in. So I'm not putting any undue stress on the crimp when I hammer it in that direction. At least that's my theory. I'm sure you could argue all kinds of different things about how it probably puts stress on the back end of the crimp or whatever, but all in all, it's got to be better than plucking in this direction on it. And that's why on this harp, particularly too, another thing to consider is the shape of the trigger. And with Sean's here, such a graceful recurved trigger as opposed to mine, which is more of a 90-degree. And even on these, might not be 90-degree, but it's a straight trigger. So this one, and again with the side that the crimp is on, I don't feel comfortable striking it in the outward direction. Sean didn't recommend it either. This one is designed and meant for inward play. As opposed to striking it out. There's a noticeable difference in sound, which I will get to on these as well. It just doesn't sound quite as nice as well. That's probably a function of the trigger, but I went very gently there. I just don't feel comfortable with it. And again, so this one sounds better and plays better in the inward direction. This one, back to it. Pretty similar in both directions, but again, I tried to design mine so that they are for good, fast outward play. So I would not play that way on this harp. That's not saying I can't strike it with a bit of force in this direction though. That's also to say too, all your strength does not come from karate chopping it. In fact, most of mine is actually just I'm snapping the wrist. That's a technique from playing drums. But with the inward play, it's almost more in your fingers. Now, these guys. I have a high and a low. They are very similar in shape. But I found with the high, now, and also the crimp, these they tend to play very well outward. So I feel comfortable. Again, like I got used to these harps before I started really putting any force into it. And again, you're not trying to beat the instrument up. I may look aggressive when I'm playing, but I'm actually very much in control. And I can tell if I've hit the harp a little too hard or in the wrong way. But generally, I'm not pounding the crap out of it. It's just the speed of my stroke when I'm playing. But I'm just grazing the end of it. I'm not hitting it hard, because if you do, again, considering the direction that you're playing, you may end up deflecting the trigger a certain way if you're hitting it too hard, and it ruins the sound of your harp. But anyway, back to these. The outward stroke on the high one has a more of a fuzz to it. It's not as pleasant. It doesn't ring as nice. But when you really get going with these ones, because these ones mute very well too. Whereas with Sean's, I with the inward play, you can do it. It's a little difficult, but that would be a technique that I would have to try and develop in order to get some of these sounds. And playing in this with this harp inward only, I've definitely focused more on my breathing techniques and some other things to try and replicate that speed that I get out of the fast strokes. So anyway, listen carefully to the inwards versus the outwards. So I almost feel like I want to start playing this one inwards only. And when I first bought this harp, I never would have played it that way. It's playing Sean's harp here that has given me more of a feel for a more melodic play on this harp, maybe. But when I get to the lower tone one, it actually sounds remarkably similar in both directions. Messed my grip up a little bit there. Anyway, this harp is a special harp. It plays excellent fast in both directions. It's great for muting. I don't know, this harp here, it definitely is one that I can really get going with back and forth stroke on. Like I said, this harp has everything. So I can get draw starts on it. It's really breathy. It's a special harp. So I feel like I can play any style on this one. This one as well, I mean, if I want. Another thing to note too, aside from the physical dimensions, is the note and the action of the trigger. Sometimes the speed at which it vibrates limits how fast you can actually play it. So in that whole rambling session, I hope I kind of explained a few things. Not going by any sort of script here as usual, but the main takeaway from this is that when you get a new harp, when you make an adjustment to a harp, if you haven't even played a harp in a while, take some time to just gently feel it out. And I definitely recommend with the inward plucking first. It's the most gentle way and often the most clean way to play your harp. And it gives you a chance to feel the stiffness of it, the action of it, and just play around with the shape of your mouth to get some different tones and just kind of feel the range of it before you really start to open up. Because if you are like me and you like to play somewhat aggressively when you get going, you definitely want to make sure that your harp can handle any mistakes. So hope that helps. I don't know how long this video is now, but let's call it quits. Got to go to work soon anyway.